No, at this stage, the supervisors are looking at it for the last time. And of course, there will be, I'm sure when they finish, there will be a few corrections because there's no perfect academic document. And then once I effect those corrections, it will go for external examination. At the University of Cape Coast, we hold postgraduate congregations every March, between February and March of every year. This year is out for me, but inshallah, I'm confident that next year when graduations are held, inshallah, I'll be Mustafa Hamid, PhD.
Thank you very much. And when that time comes, invite your friends to join you. You have explained why you did your Bachelor of Arts for 5 years.
Yes.
But not your Master of Philosophy in Religious Studies, which you did for 6 years,
yes,
as your CV says. Any explanation for this, please?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, as you know, in Ghana, after you finished the first year, which is the coursework component of the Masters, the rest of it, you have to go out and work and fend for yourselves because we are never on scholarships. And if you can see from my CV, between 1999 and 2000, 2002, that's when I was doing various works in Accra, in advertising and so on. So somehow it slowed my ability to progress. But the university was very kind, and anytime I asked for extensions, they extended it for me.
Well noted. Mr. Chairman, on page 2 of the CV, there is an overlap between September 2013 to March 2014, where you were Executive Director of the Dankwa Institute, and at the same time, a lecturer, Department of Religion and Human Values, University of Cape Coast. Can you please clarify this overlap?
Mr. Chairman, in the university, lecturers are required to satisfy another component that we call taking the gown to town. In other words, as part of our requirements for promotion, we are required to show evidence that we are doing other things that contribute to the development of society. And so when the governing board of the Dankwa Institute appointed me as executive director, I thought that it was a beautiful opportunity to contribute something outside of the so-called ivory tower. And indeed, the university was excited that I was making that contribution. So, but it was not a full-time job. I only provided the focus and the leadership for running the Dankwa Institute, and people did the day-to-day running and the field work. And of course, the contribution of academics to civil society growth in Ghana is tremendous, and I thought that I should make that modest contribution to the growth of civil society.
Right-wing civil society, I'm sure, to be more specific. But Mr. Chairman, still on page 2 of your CV, it will appear that you were in no paid job between 2006 and 2009, except if you will tell this committee that as spokesperson to presidential candidate Nana Akufo-Addo from 2006 to 2016, that was a paid job. If it was not a paid job, are you able to let us know how you kept body and soul together between 2006 and 2009?
Mr. Chairman, whilst I worked for Akufo-Addo as his spokesperson, he gave me allowances that kept body and soul together.
Mr. Chairman, just to remind the honorable nominee that then presidential candidate is now His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo. So you are too used to him. Familiarity clearly is breeding a lot of contempt. Mr. Chairman, I seem to have concerns with all your jobs. You spend an average of 6 months at any location. Choice FM 4 months, Statesman only 5 months, High Street Journal 6 months, ENC Global Limited 8 months, Client Service Manager for Ghana Advertising and Marketing Limited 6 months. When you were Strategy Planning Manager for Media Magic, also 6 months. Are you a Rolling Stone? How do you explain this?
Mr. Chairman, when you are young and hungry for success, you tend to jump at opportunities that allow you to engage your talents. And I guess that at that relatively young age, I was quite exuberant and excited that companies were chasing for my talent. And I felt good about it. And perhaps that would explain the short stints in various organizations. It's the habit of young people.
Chairman, let me just, still on the CV, page 5. In Parliament, it's our respected rule that we don't deal with speculations. Forthcoming publications, you are reporting to us. If you are not able to do it, we would not be able to hold you to it. Do we have your permission to expunge that from your CV?
Mr. Chairman, you cannot expunge it with the greatest respect because this is done, routledge. That's why I put the publishing house. It's been accepted, it's gone to peer review, it's in print. These projects are in print, so they are coming out.
Do you agree that your heading is speculative?
In academia, that's the term that we use for a paper that has been accepted for publication and it's coming. Yes, it is coming. Once it has been accepted, peer-reviewed and accepted for publication, you are even giving an acceptance letter. And even the acceptance letter alone is good for promotion.
And you have the acceptance letter.
Yes.
Tender it in evidence for this committee. Can we come to page 3? February 2001 to October 2001. Is it strategic or strategy, which is appropriate?
Strategy planning manager.
Is it strategic or strategy? You were your English student, we are not, but those of us who went to Kulukul school too, we have come very far. I can see my respected Zangona, who supervised us at the United Primary. Is it strategic or strategy?
Well, for Media Magic and Research Systems, they refer to their strategy planning manager as strategy planning manager.
Okay.
So it's a name.
So it's a name. And then page 2. Was your activities with President Nana Addo Dankwa only limited to his political ambition, as stated in your CV?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, I'll defer back to the Honorable Ablakwa. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader and Chairman. Mr. Chairman, still on page 3 of the CV, your national service, did you do it for only 4 months? You have September 1996 to December 1996. Teaching assistant, Department of Religious Studies. Only 4 months?
Yes, I explained that because we sat out for 1 whole year, the government at the time gave us a dispensation to do service for only 4 months and move on.
On page 4 of your CV, do we take it that you became SRC president during your postgraduate days?
That is the case, Mr. Chairman.
Honorable Kujoto, whilst you are there, just one other. Come to page 4. Your research interest is on political thought in Islam, Islam and gender, Islam in Ghana. Yet, in the other page, where you have item 6, I see you doing comparative study with Christianity. Is that to suggest that you left it out or you don't have interest in it?
Mr. Chairman, as you can see, that paper is a joint paper between myself and Professor Anum. Professor Anum is a Christian religious studies professor, and I'm an Islamic studies professor. And the paper is on religious teacher, and I am an Islamic studies teacher. And therefore, it's a joint paper. So he did the Christian bit of that paper, and I did the Islamic bit of it, and then we put it together for publication.
And then you were national youth organizer of the New Patriotic Party up to only December 2005. Is that factual?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that is factual. Before 2004 conference, which took place at the auditorium of the University of Cape Coast, the leadership of our party was only for 3 years. We were the last batch of leadership that served for 3 years. Then we went to the Cape Coast Conference and amended it and extended it to 4 years. So I served for 3 years as National Youth Organizer. It was our constitutional arrangement at that time.
You remember the date you handed over as National Youth Organizer?
December 2005.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, on page 9 of the CV, under awards, your head note is awards, but you list only one award. Are there some more awards you want to tell us about, or you want to amend it to award?
Mr. Chairman, it's an award.
Mr. Chairman, under hobbies, I noticed that he decides to go the American way of stating traveling, but that is fine. If you oblige me, Mr. Chairman, since the nominee is a very well written scholar on religious matters, are you able, yesterday this matter came up, are you able to tell us your own view from a scholarly point of view, the argument about the state and religion, seeing that for the first time we are going to have a Ministry for Religious Affairs? What are your own views from an academic point of view, just as a matter of interest?
Well, as an academic, I believe that religion should operate only in the private sphere, that religion should not be legislated. Religion should not be a public matter. It should be a relationship between people and their faith. However, as a state, I believe that the state should provide the environment that allows people to practice their faith without let or hindrance.
Mr. Chairman, I'm grateful.
Okay, Honorable Muntaka.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to draw the nominee's attention, page 2, where he has a responsibility, teaching, research, and supervision of, that's April 2014 to date. Responsibility there. Teaching, research, supervision of. So you correct?
No, it's plural.
Oh, okay. Thesis, okay, and long essays.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, because the nominee has opted to give us so much on his CV, I just wanted to know what was the thesis topic, Islamic and gender in Dagbani? What was it about?
Mr. Chairman, Islam and gender in Dagbon simply looks at how Islam influences the negotiation of gender amongst Dagomba people. Because in this country, the Dagombas are the most Islamized group of people. According to the 2010 population census, 98% of Dagombas say they are Muslims. Indeed, the ethics and ethos of the Dagomba people is inextricably intertwined with Islam. There is practically no indigenous Dagomba rights anymore. Everything is underpinned by Islam, from Bugum Festival to Damba Festival to everything. So they are a very Islamized people. And therefore, as somebody who is interested in gender, I thought that I should look at how Islam also influences gender negotiation amongst the Dagomba people. Of course, because gender is a huge topic for world discourse today, and especially in Islam, because there are perceptions about Islam being a religion that subjugates women and etc., etc. So I sought to look at that issue and be able to do, if you want, a scholarly assessment of the matter in Dagbon and come to the conclusion as to whether it is Islam that influences the gender negotiation in Dagbon today, or it is culture, or it is a mix of both.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to ask him this follow-up. In that work, how many wives can a Dagomba man have?
Mr. Chairman, in Dagbon, there's a saying that Ta'ayuno Lanyala Dakwale. What it means is that a man with one wife is a bachelor.
I want to change my ethnic group.
No, I asked this because of your earlier statement where you said virtually close to 100% of their way of life is also the Islamic way of life. Did I hear you say that right? And I know that in Islam, you cannot marry more than 4. Am I right? But whether in the Dagban tradition, you can marry more than 4.
Well, in the Dagban tradition, you can marry more than 4. But today, except for the chiefs of Dagban, the citizenry hardly go beyond the 4.
I was saying this because of the statement that you said that their way of life is virtually Islamized. So if it is purely Islamic, then there's, but I know not only chiefs, that many also do have. But anyway, there's this other topic that you treated, which is very interesting for me, and just want to have your take and what was it all about. The 5th August 2015, the one that you held with the Presbyterian University, that's page 6, where the topic is Christian-Muslim relations in Ghana towards creating an inclusive society through interreligious schooling. What was it all about?
Mr. Chairman, at that point, there was a huge debate in this country about whether Muslim students who attend Christian-denominated schools should attend church services. I remember, Honorable Muntaka, I heard you on various radio stations talk about that matter. So it was a vexed issue. And as academics, that's what we do. We take vexed issues and then we do a scholarly dissection of them. And so the Presby University invited me to do this one. And my conclusion was, 1, that we should make a distinction between faith-based services in secondary school and curriculum-based services. By that I mean, for example, that when there's a church every Sunday, we know that Christians go to church. That is a faith-based service. And in my view, Muslim students who attend Christian schools should not be compelled to attend faith-based services. But there are other services that are held merely as part of school discipline. And I'm saying that to the extent that in Islam, the Prophet says actions are according to intentions, and every man or woman shall be rewarded according to that which he intended. That if our students were to attend these services merely because they are school curriculum based, I don't see that Muslims should quarrel about that one. But they can quarrel about Muslim students being compelled to attend faith services so that there is a balance. Because, in my view, when you see Archbishop Porter Girls Secondary School, you know immediately that it is founded on Catholic principles. And so as a Muslim, if you agree to subject your child to that type of Catholic discipline, you should be prepared to accept some of the ramifications that come with it.
Sorry, even if the ramifications undermine the constitutional provisions on freedom of conscience, where will you stand on this?
Yeah, the Constitution talks about the right of every citizen to profess the faith that they believe in and to manifest such faith. That's my understanding. And therefore, compelling students to attend the faith-based services will be undermining this constitutional provision. For example, I did teaching practice at T.I. Ahmadiyya Secondary School at Potton. And everybody during morning assembly recites the Fatiha, whether you are Christian or Muslim. At Glace, the prescribed dressing, Ghana Lebanon Islamic Secondary School here around Circle, the prescribed dressing for women is the veil, and the Christian girls also veil, because that is not faith. It is merely a school prescription for maintaining discipline. And so I wouldn't see why a Christian should quarrel about wearing a veil at Glace. Once you choose to attend Ghana Lebanon Islamic Secondary, you should be prepared to wear the veil. So is Islamic University at Ajirengano.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think that we'll take this at a different level. It was asked to whether you had a choice, because there's a computerized system. And then, because the Constitution has to be upheld, whether you think that a Christian girl, simply because the computerized system has sent her to TR or has sent her to Islamic secondary school, she must be compelled to wear the veil. Because the veil, as you know, and as I do, is part of the Islamic faith. It is not just a dress that Muslim chooses to wear. It's part of the religion. Do you think that it would be fair for a Christian girl, simply because she's been computer selection has sent her to an Islamic school, to be compelled to wear a veil?
Mr. Chairman, admittedly, that's a very difficult question, except to say that if the computer places you in a school and you don't have any choice but to attend that school, assuming that there is a sanction by government for people who refuse to attend schools where that computers have placed them in, then I guess, Honorable, your argument will be valid. But to the extent that you have the latitude to reject the computer placement and to seek permission, admission for your ward elsewhere, I guess your point would not be very solid.
Maybe I would just want to move, but I'll just ask you this follow-up. If, say, you are living around Amokom in Kumasi, and admittedly, one of the best schools around Amokom is TR, and you are sent there as a Christian girl, knowing that it's one of the best schools that you can get the best education, will that be fair for the TR administration to compel you to wear veil?
Isn't that hypothetical? That's rather hypothetical.
Okay, well, it was because of his answer, but I'll just let us move. There was this other thing about this. Maybe Mr. Speaker, last on the CV, maybe the very last one. There was this publication that you intend to have. Was it a 9-day wonder? Was it a that's page 5. That's the forthcoming publication, the number 1. Was it a 9-day wonder? And a note of that publication that you had. I mean, it's a lengthy, because since you have it, I don't want to read. What was it about?
Mr. Chairman, me and a colleague at the Department of History, Professor Botwe, have wrote this article as a contribution. It's a book chapter in a forthcoming book titled New Perspectives on the Nation of Islam. And so we examined the Nation of Islam. Mr. Chairman, the Nation of Islam is the American-based Islamic sect led by the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. And then, so we looked in this paper at why the Nation of Islam has not been able to take roots in Ghana. That's why we call it, was it a 9-day wonder? Because in the 80s, there was a blitz in Ghana when Louis Farrakhan made friends with former President Rawlings. And with the help of President Rawlings, he was in Ghana all the time to give lectures. He had bookshops, but it has since fizzled out. So this paper gives us the perspectives on why that attempt to plant Nation of Islam in Ghana has virtually failed.
I remember that. We had his cassettes that we were listening to as student leaders at the time. We were picking phrases from doing our campaign as student leaders. Right. Honorable Halu.
Thank you. I want to take you back to page 1 of your CV and to ask a question on your Master of Philosophy in Religious Studies. The AFA, I don't understand what that means. Can you just educate me on the AFA as a pivot?
An AFA in Dagbani means basically a Muslim cleric. It is sometimes used loosely to refer to an elderly person, somebody that society respects. That's an AFA.
Yes, now we are going into the main discussion.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of questions on the CV. I would like to start with that before I ask my questions on the main. Okay, thank you. But maybe again, Mr. Chairman, before I even start asking, I will need your guidance. Congratulations, by the way, my brother. Is the honorable nominee not naked by our standing orders?
No, he's not sitting here as a member of parliament.
Thank you. All right. First on the CV, I don't know if you explained it earlier, but forgive me if I missed it. 1991 to 96, that's on the first page. Bachelor of Arts, second class upper division, and diploma in education. Were you doing the two programs at the same time?
Mr. Chairman, before 1998, the University of Cape Coast offered 2 certificates. That is why at that time we did 4-year university degrees and other universities did 3 years. Because if you came to the University of Cape Coast, you were required, if you were doing education as a degree, to choose another subject for a diploma. So we're running the 2 concurrently. So I was doing a degree in religion and diploma in education.
Okay, maybe my final one on the CV. I see also that on page 1, under region, you wrote Upper East Region. The Bonaboto is a very respected organization in the Upper East Region. Its PRO, Stanley Abopam, actually went to media and said that you were not from the Upper East Region. Yes. Can you explain?
Mr. Chairman, that's amazing. I don't know if citizens qualify to determine where other citizens come from. My father is Bisa. He's sitting behind me. Bisa, for other people who don't know, is the ethnic group that we call Busanga, popularly known as Busanga. We own those Volvos on 2 legs. My father is a Bisa from Widana, and by that I am from Widana, a citizen of Widana from the Upper East Region. I don't see how that is disputable.
All right, now to my main questions. Honorable nominee, you, in an interview with CTFM in January last year, maybe I should start from before that. You, in an interview responding to Honorable Atta Kennedy's call on Nana Akufo-Addo, His Excellency the President, to rein in his insulting supporters, who, in his view, were responsible for some disturbances in the NPP, in the lead-up to the primaries of the NPP, said, and I quote, "There's only one person on earth who has a license duty signed by Nana Akufo-Addo to speak on his behalf. Nana Akufo-Addo is responsible only for his unguarded pronouncements, and that person is Mustafa Hamid," unquote. Now, moving on, last year, in another interview with CTFM, you said of your boss about the Gitmo 3 that he wanted the detainees returned because it was wrong for the government at the time to receive them. When will he return them?
Mr. Chairman, I am not too sure that I said that he would return them, because at that time he was an opposition candidate. He didn't have the power to return Gitmo detainees.
So now that he has the power, what will be the minister's advice to
Mr.
the
Chairman,
president?
I said that my fundamental premise is that I don't quite remember, but guaranteed that I said that. Now that he has the power, I guess that he has the power to relook at the negotiation, and then he will take a decision.
Have he given you any information as to whether or not he returned them?
No.
Chairman, will you further advise the nominee that he's not responsible for matters of foreign affairs and matters relative to national security? He should not chew more than he can bite.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not responsible.
Well, I was about to say the chairman can be a good NADMO coordinator. He knows how to rescue during disaster moments, but I think the Honorable Minority Leader also came to the rescue. So
I am the chairman and I regulate the proceedings. NADMO is for falling buildings and rivers.
Okay. Honorable nominee, again, you have been very active in the media. So on November 24th, on the Joy FM program, you said in response to an article His Excellency Ghana's ambassador to, sorry, the name just escaped me. No, not information. Okay, I'm trying to remember the country. I can't immediately. A former editor of the Accra Daily Mail, Harunata, thank you. Namibia. In your discussion of that article that he wrote in November, you said, in reference to His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, that, quote, he is an unrepentant ethnic bigot. And went further to say that the article was meant to put Nana Addo at par with, quote, an avowed ethnicist like Mr. Mahama. Now, for the benefit of our viewers, a bigot is one who regards or treats members of a group with hatred or intolerance. An ethnicist is a person who believes a particular ethnicity is superior to others. The question now is, can you give examples of President Mahama's conduct as president that made him an unrepentant ethnic bigot or an ethnicist in your view?
Mr. Chairman, I guess that these things were said in rebuttal to the NDC tagging my candidate at that time as an ethnic bigot. So, Mr. Chairman, I guess that under the circumstances, I thought that it was okay to say that you are the opposite candidate is and not us, and that's the context in which I said that.
Now, sitting here as a Minister of State, would you use the same language to describe either your opponent or your president?
Mr. Chairman, certainly not.
Chairman, to Mr. Nominee, the Constitution of Ghana abhors matters of tribalism and ethnocentrism. Do you regret those comments?
Mr. Chairman, I regret the polluted political environment that enables people from both sides of the political divide to throw such invectives into the public space and poison the atmosphere. I regret that environment very much. If by your grace I am minister, inshallah, I shall work to rid our environment of such pollution. I promise you that, Mr. Chairman.
Such invectives, is that your commitment?
Yes, that I will. My commitment is that, first of all,
including those that are likely to be manufactured by you, is that your
Mr. Chairman, I would not manufacture stuff. I will not. I promise you that. Mr. Chairman, I want to reiterate that I will contribute my quota in ensuring that we have a sane environment, a sane political environment where we are not insulting and attacking each other and mudslinging one another. I will try my best to create that atmosphere.
All right, I wish you well. I don't know how much you have been briefed, but I do know of issues of workers at GNA and the Information Services Department where they are made to pay before they even get promotions, and many of them have complained about it. If you have been briefed, how will you address it? If not, if you haven't been briefed yet, what is your assurance that when you get there, you will rectify that situation and make sure that you work in the interest of the workers at these agencies?
Mr. Chairman, this is the first time that I'm hearing that any such thing exists. Mr. Chairman, I want to believe that the civil service of Ghana has rules of promotion. And if by your grace I am Minister for Information, I would ensure that agencies under my ministry abide to those standards.
Honorable Cabo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And Honorable Mustafa Abdul Hamid, Minister-designate for Information, congratulations. I must put on record that we're very proud that His Excellency the President we're very proud that His Excellency the President has appointed you. More so, many of us drew inspiration from your leadership in the youth wing, and through interactions, you eventually poached us to work, and we worked, and I eventually sat on the chair as a National Youth Organizer of the party. I'm so proud that the party has finally given you this. Yes, indeed. Indeed, and I'm here as MP to vet him. Thank you very much. But very important issue. As the Ministry of Information, do you think that your role as Minister of Information will conflict your role as spokesperson for the President?
Mr. Chairman, I don't think so. Mr. Chairman, in my view, the President is the embodiment of the government. In other words, it is his vision and philosophy that drives government. And therefore, I want to believe that they are one and the same principle. Rather, I would have thought that having a spokesperson for the President and then also a Minister for Information is rather what would create conflict as to who speaks on what and so on. But when it's unified, the way that the President has arranged it, I think that it will bring focus to the spokesmanship.
Chairman, I have a difficulty appreciating what the nominee have just said in response to the Honorable Kago. For all intents and purposes, we have a letter signed by President Nana Addo dated 17 January 2017, and it reads, in reference to you, Mr. Mustafa Abdul Hamid, Minister for Information, nothing more. We are unable to recognize a certain portfolio you had 10 years ago being intertwined today. As far, for our purposes and for the record, you are the President's Minister for Information. I just thought that we should clarify that. If the President wanted, he should have added and presidential spokesperson. Then we could accommodate you on those two legs.
Mr. Chairman, that saves me a lot of trouble.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My second question has to do with the ministry. Is the Ministry of Information relevant in the 21st century where everybody has access to information through our mobile phones and various media channels? I mean, is the ministry really that important?
Mr. Chairman, I think that the Ministry of Information is very important. It is very important in the sense that the difference between free democratic societies and societies that are undemocratic and not free is that under authoritarian societies, information is controlled, it is muscled. Citizens do not have access to government information and what their government is doing, and citizens don't have a way of giving government feedback. But in our democratic dispensation, a Ministry of Information is important in order to give timeous, accurate, and truthful information to the citizenry on how the governance process is going, and also to receive feedback from the citizens that will inform government programs and projects. And so to that extent, I think that it is still very relevant even in the 21st century.
My last question has to do with the Ghana Publishing Company. And the understanding is that government departments and agencies must give a certain quota of their printing to the Ghana Publishing Company. As minister, I'm sure you would have been briefed. What is the state of the Ghana Publishing Company, and what are you going to do to improve, make sure that it is back on its feet?
Mr. Chairman, the Ghana Publishing Company, as of today, is not in a very good place. And it is not in a good place largely because it doesn't have the machinery for being competitive on the market. And therefore, what I would do, inshallah, if by your permission I am allowed to be minister, is that we would find avenues for retooling the Ghana Publishing Company. They have briefed me to the effect that they have a machine that is only called a 3-color printer. But I understand that the trend now is towards a 5-color or even 6-color printer. So looks like they are way behind in terms of the correct machinery that they need in order to be competitive. So first of all, I will try as minister to be able to raise the required funding for them to retool. Once they retool, then we can appeal to other ministries and government agencies to give them the jobs. Because now, even if they are given the jobs, they don't have the capacity to do quality work.
Chairman, so the nominee's assurance to this committee is you will equip Ghana Publishing. Is that the case?
Mr. Chairman, it is my aim to do that.
I'm grateful, Mr. Chairman. My first question will be taken from an interview you granted City FM on the 13th of January 2017. And that was after you were named as Minister for Information. You told the host of Point Blank that you will have wished that His Excellency the President gave you another responsibility. Some have thought that that statement you made was unfortunate, and some of us also thought that perhaps you may even be declining the nomination or the appointment. Can we be assured now that you are settled to carry out this responsibility, this onerous responsibility, and can we be assured that you will give it your all and do a good job in the interest of Ghana?
Mr. Chairman, I am excited to do this job, very, very excited. Inshallah, I shall do my best.
And Chairman, sorry, Honorable Blakwa, you wholeheartedly, for a President of the Republic to recognize you among 27 million Ghanaians, to play a lead role and a frontal role. Chairman will translate that for you to be his, is it a chairman they call them? Yeah. Yes. To be the President's Minister for Information. The public kind of construed, rightly or wrongly, that you were expressing regret of that particular portfolio. Do you still stand by that, or probably after a second thought? And as Minister, you are Minister of the Republic. Do you regret those comments?
Mr. Chairman, I regret the way that it was understood. Because in communication, sometimes you say one thing and people understand it. It was completely misunderstood. And to reiterate the point, I am very excited. I'm over the moon.
If it's excited, can you just qualify it and deeply regret that I created the impression that it was not a worthy portfolio?
Thank you for your suggestions, but his answer is sufficient. Please, next question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Now that we know that you are excited and over the moon and committed to the job, let's come to the sector now. Digital migration is in its third and final phase. This was spearheaded under the previous Ministry of Communication, which was a ministry which the President put together information and communication into one. So the Ministry of Communication took over the functions of the previous Ministry of Information, which had been separate before the two ministries were combined. Now, my question is, looking at what is left for the final stages of digital migration, which has to do with signal transmission, distribution, the supply of set-top boxes, especially to needy households and all of that. Will you argue that this final phase of digital migration should be brought to the Ministry of Information, should be relocated to the Ministry of Information, taken away from the Ministry of Communication, since obviously what will be happening matters that border on the mandate of the Ministry of Information?
Well, Mr. Chairman, frankly speaking, I haven't veered my mind as to arguments for if it will be in the Ministry of Information or at the Ministry of Communication. Be that as it may, if by your permission I am Minister for Information, what I will care about is how we accelerate the process towards meeting the September deadline for going completely digital. And to that extent, I think that once there's room for collaboration between myself and the Minister for Communication, I think that we can still work in tandem to ensure that the timetable is met without necessarily angling over whether it should come to the Ministry of Information or not.
My final question, the Information Services Department is a very, very important agency under the ministry. Some have argued that it is a colonial relic and it should probably be closed down. I take a different view. Having worked at the Ministry of Information for 4 years, I know what they are capable of. They have some of the finest historians and researchers and PROs in that department. What will be your vision for the ISD in terms of modernizing the ISD, modernizing their operations, resourcing them, and making sure that they really become, you know, the writers and the Associated Press and all of those agencies that we have seen in other parts of the world, where their Information Service Department are well equipped, well resourced, and do provide education and inform their populace, and so create enlightenment for the forward march of countries. What is your vision for the ISD?
Well, Mr. Chairman, the Information Services Department have briefed me to the effect that they are heavily under-resourced. That's what they say. They say that they don't have the information vans anymore. They all have virtually broken down, so they are unable to anymore do their village and community outreach programs. They say that they don't have computers and monitors to be able to receive news from across the country and even abroad and so on. So almost like the case of the Ghana publishing company that the Honorable Cabo asked about, I think that we would need to re-engineer the Information Services Department, retool it, and I believe that the men and women who are in there have the capacity to do a good job. And by your grace, if I am Minister for Information, I would ensure that that is done, because that is the bedrock of the ministry. And once that foundation is broken, the entire ministry is broken. So I'll do my best, inshallah.
Okay, thank you. I think you are not recognized. I don't recognize you. Now we'll come to leadership, please.
I thought the Honorable Jato was making an application, but be as it may, the Honorable Mustafa Abdul Hamid, you know, hitherto I thought you were older than me, so today it appears that I'm older, so I can call you my younger brother. When I attempted to rectify your CV, you were insistent. By my record, Nana Addo Dankwa resigned as minister in the Kufuor administration in 2007. Is that not the case?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that is the case. But we began the preparatory ground towards his resignation and coming full-time in 2006.
That was on President Kufuor's blind side. But what I'm trying to lead you on to is you have indicated in your CV very strongly, and you see this is a committee of record. So,
Mr. Chairman, let's amend it to 2007.
Perfect. Now you are talking so that we can.
Let's amend it.
A period when we were testing the grounds, in the words of President Kufuor, it should not be counted.
And Mr. Chairman, I don't know whether I can also take the liberty with the Honorable Haruna Idrisu to ask that the part about my forthcoming papers be expunged.
Well, noted.
Chairman, the nominee will be responsible for government information, and given his background, he understands feedback. If you have a senior government official say that 7 billion of Ghana money missing, nobody is arrested, nobody is being prosecuted, nobody is being interrogated, for choice of words when he could have said is arrears or money subject to expenditure, should we believe that you will be fair to the Ghanaian people with accurate, timely information?
Mr. Chairman, at the risk of not sounding boastful, I must say that
I'm sorry, the question was, will you be forthcoming? Just keep yourself to the ignore the prelims, please.
It is my commitment to be honest with the Ghanaian people.
Honorable nominee, the previous administration set up the Media Development Fund, which was intended to build the capacities and sharpen the delivery of media practitioners. What do you intend to do with the fund to improve it for the benefit of our journalists?
Mr. Chairman, from the briefings that I've received from the various sectors under the ministry, they say that capacity building is one of the major challenges. And therefore, I would commit some of the funds, inshallah, if I'm minister, to building the capacity of our journalists to be able to do their work better.
Can you just elaborate in 1 or 2 lines your vision for the Ministry of Information?
Mr. Chairman, in 2 simple sentences, my vision for the Ministry of Information is to position it as a lead government organization in providing accurate, timely, and truthful information for the citizenry, and also to collect feedback for informing government decisions on the governance processes.
I worked with you at the Transition Committee and probably along the line with the Honorable Kojo Opon Nkrumah. And when we got to accreditation of journalists for the inaugural event, there was this talk of foreign media being charged. In a liberalized democracy, local or foreign, should the media pay in order to cover an event? And where will you stand on this?
Mr. Chairman, local journalists should not pay, and indeed do not pay, per my understanding, for accreditation. I understand that the convention now, and I stand to be corrected, Honorable Okujeto was in the ministry, is that if you are a foreign journalist coming into our country, you are required to go to the Ministry of Information and register your presence and pay a certain fee. Now, my understanding is that that fee is what they call a facilitation fee, because sometimes you need letters to be written for you in order to facilitate your entry to certain places around our country. And so they use that money. It is 500 cedis, as far as I know, that will aid you to. So to the extent that the ministry makes some expenditure in facilitating the foreign journalists' work, I think that the fee would be justified.
Chairman, is that not why you have a budget dedicated to the Ministry of Information, and foreign journalists abroad create an impression of an extortionist state, where in Ghana you have to extort money from a foreign journalist for him to operate? Will you review this position?
Mr. Chairman, if the entire government machinery is in place, it is a matter that I intend to bring to the attention of the government. A discussion will be had, and I'm sure the superior view will prevail. Whatever view prevails at that time, I'll be prepared to go by it. If the government wants a revocation, that's what we shall do.
Chairman, the Honorable Okujato dealt with the subject of digital migration, largely and primarily driven by the Ministry of Communication, but you are a major stakeholder, which is that the national television, subject to the provisions of the Constitution and the National Media Commission, you would exercise some oversight. Will you respect the constitutional provisions on censorship?
Mr. Chairman, I guess that where we've gotten to in our democratic experiment, it will be very difficult for any government to seek to censor the media. Even the National Media Commission, my understanding is that attempted through LI 2224, to bring in some regulatory framework for what journalists. The courts have shown aspects of that law out. So I will abide by the constitutional provision that allows journalists unfettered freedoms to do their work.
There's been some, Chairman, thank you. There's been some work going on the need for Ghana to have a dedicated broadcaster legal framework of a legislation which defines the parameters of broadcaster generally in Ghana. And I believe that the desire, thanks to GTV, I'm sure you are being heard live across the country, there were some requests of GTV to be financed just as the British Broadcaster Corporation and migrating them from a state broadcaster to a national broadcaster. Will you pursue that agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think that it is important that we work towards making GBC a BBC, if you want, where it is able to raise its own money, be very independent of government control and so on, even in terms of subvention and so on, so that we can position it as a global player in the international industry.
Chairman, I don't know about now, to be fair to the nominee. The problem with GBC, and for that matter GTV, is they largely survive on the bills that we pay, TV license fee. And at some point, that's why I'm saying that I'm not up to date, the cost of wanting to take the license fee was more than the fee itself. Do you have any innovative ways to assist GBC, GTV to make appropriate recoveries of their legitimate fees from the Ghanaian people?
Mr. Chairman, the Director General of GBC has told me that they have some digital platforms in place now that would allow people to pay their license fee through their mobile phones and from the comfort of their homes and so on. Inshallah, when you allow me to be minister, I would go and look at what it is that this digital platform is about. And of course, with technology, I believe with that we can explore innovative ways of making it easier for people to pay. I guess it is the hassle of going to look for payment points, which would also be why people may not be paying.
Chairman, may I take the nominee back to the world of a broadcasting bill? Parameters, community radio. I mean, if you go to the Upper East region, you would love that kind of local cultural activities that they engage on Eura Radio. If you go to the Upper West region, you have a situation where state broadcaster is mixed with commercial broadcaster. And that's a problem with the GBC and GTV, because they have not been able to commercialize what they do. They are unable to earn appropriately, as should be the case. Can we count on your leadership that before the end of your tenure, Ghana will have a broadcaster bill which defines the parameters of broadcaster and provides for a sanctions regime within that legislation.
Mr. Chairman, you can have my commitment on that. I've seen the broadcasting bill in its draft form. I've been asking around to see where it is in the legislative mix, but I'm unable to find the answer. So inshallah, if you allow me to be minister, I'll find out where that bill is now, and then we will take it from there and ensure that within the shortest possible time it is passed.
Chairman, just to assist the nominee, I'm sure the like of Professor Karkare are still around. There is that
nominee. We have Ibrahim Fauzia, the wife of the nominee.
Is it one of the wives, the Dagomba?
I know for sure he has only one, no. Who is my sister.
This is a house of records, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, you're out of order. We have Chief Mahmoud Dende Sakin Zongo of Cape Coast. We have Sheikh Abdul Mumuni Dalu Sakin Zongo of Tamale. We have Chief Mohammed Dambre, Greater Accra Bisa Chief. Mr. Amidu Kalim, founding member of NPP. Mr. Mutala Mohammed, Upper East Regional Chairman of the NPP. Idrisu Musa Superior, a friend to the nominee. Mr. Sefua Isel, Director, Information Services Department. Mr. J.Y.A. Apia, Acting Chief Director, Ministry of Information. Mariam Bawa, wife of the nominee.
So there are two.
Oh. And so the following persons.
Mr. Chairman, I told you that Payuno Lanyara Dakwale.
Can you translate that for us?
The nominee, Chairman, you see, unfortunately, you have brought the curtains. I wanted to get his take on Muslim men beating their wives or women as part of his Islamic writing, but be as it may, you know, Lana, I hear Dagbani, so I'll whisper to you what he meant.
Right.
He's emphasizing how particular the chairman is.
Leader, he earlier explained, and chairman offered to join our tribe. That's the Dagomba tribe. You are very welcome, but just be sure you have to come along with your women, because we won't share with ours.
There are many Dagomba women at Bekwai, so I'll start from there. Right, thank you very much. Thank you for attending upon the committee. You're discharged. You will hear from us. Thank you very much.
We also have the Director General of GBC.